Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John, and this video is going to be a ranking of the complete Friday the 13th movies. Now, what I'm going to do with this one is, like I've been doing with my other rankings, I'm going to tell you how I feel about these at the moment, and these need a good rewatch from me. I haven't watched this set yet, which I can't believe, and I think I usually used to watch these once a year. It's my favourite franchise of all time. But I haven't watched these for about 3 years, and I can't wait to get back into this set. I'll be interested to see if the rankings on this change with another viewing, because my rankings, I wish I could have ranked this when I first saw them, because my rankings now is completely different to the rankings I would have had in the past. And who knows, they'll change again. So there's 13 movies in here. It's quite an easy watch to watch this complete series. I rank them from worst, even though, spoiler alert, I do like them all, to best. Okay, so let's go. So at number 13 is Friday the 13th, Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell. Now, actually, when this movie first came out, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought this is a good take on the fact of how does Jason not get killed, although you kind of find that out in Part 6. The timelines in these movies doesn't make sense. There's a lot of things in these movies, if you look into them too much, they do not make it like one bit of sense. But it doesn't matter because I just love this franchise. I love Jason. He's my favorite sort of killer, if that's a thing. But this movie here, the unrated cut is the best cut of this movie. And when I watched it, I thought this is great. There's like a bit of a different sort of spin on the Jason tale. Now, what I started to not like about this movie on repeat viewings was the fact that I think when you get the Jason, actually the person who plays Jason, when he doesn't look the right shape, although you don't see much of Jason in this movie, when he doesn't look the right shape, it just doesn't work for me. Jason has to look a certain way for me. He has to be a certain frame. If he doesn't look in that certain frame, it kind of takes me out of the film, and it's a bit of a shame that it happens. You never know when I watch this again, the unrated version, which I have seen before. You never know this might go up higher in the list. I don't know if it will actually. But so at number 13, that's Friday the 13th, Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell. At number 12 is Freddy versus Jason. Now, this movie here does suffer from the fact of Jason just not looking that good. Unfortunately, this is more like a Freddy Krueger movie for me. I did remember when I watched it, I didn't really like it at all, if I'm honest. It could have been much more, and it kind of fell flat for me. But you never know on a rewatch. This is probably one of the least ones that I've watched when I watch this set. Sometimes I kind of miss this one out because it kind of does get me nerves a little bit for the fact that it just doesn't, Jason just doesn't behave in the way I would have thought Jason would do. It's kind of like Freddy's lapdog, which I didn't care for. But you never know. Fresh eyes and all that. It might go up in the list. Although it's another one a bit like Jason Goes to Hell, but I can see these maybe swapping places. You never know. So at number 12, that's Freddy versus Jason. At number 11 is Friday the 13th, Part 10, Jason X. This is a fun movie. I really like this movie. I do think that needs a good rewatch. It's another one I didn't watch that much because I only had it in DVD before this. But this movie, it's a daft movie actually. It's just Jason in space. I mean, come on. I think they were running out of ideas. What they should have done is they should have. I know that I like Jason when he's in the camp, and you think that maybe they've done that, and they have tried to move on in certain ways, and it's worked sometimes and it hasn't in others. But I think Jason belongs in the woods. And yeah, you're going to get the kind of same movie 12 times or 13 times over. But I don't mind that. I just like the whole thing of his. And actually, there's some fan-made movies in here. Jason, when he's in the snow and stuff like that. They look actually really brilliant. So I think they want to get back to, if they do another Friday the 13th, which they've got to do, because it's pathetic that it's taken this long with no Friday the 13th because they're all at rights battles and they don't agree with each other on who gets paid what. I think they should put that to bed and they should start making these movies again because it's a travesty not to have any. Anyway, getting back to Jason next. It's a fun movie. He's played by Kane Hodder, who is my favourite Jason. And yeah, it's just a bit of a laugh. Actually, I treat it like that. But not a bad film, although it's a bit of a silly film. That's at number 11. That's Friday the 13th, Part 10, Jason X. At number 10 is Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Now, this movie could have been so much better. If it had took place in Manhattan, like they said, it would have been brilliant. If it had stayed on the boat, it would have been brilliant. Obviously, it would have been you know, Jason takes the Titanic. It's just it's just a bit of a letdown that they'd run out of money and they didn't realize what they should have done. It's got some great kills in here. It's got some great moments in here, a bit of humor in it. I do like it when Friday the 13th has a bit of humor in it. Some of them are really humorous, actually. And yeah, so it's one of those ones it's a shame that it went the way it went because it was a really interesting premise to put Jason from the woods into a city, a main city. And it's funny because when he's walking around, nobody really takes any notice of him because of all the way that people look in Manhattan anyway. How weird the sort of punks look and everything. They just think he's just another one bloke walking around the streets, which is great in itself. But it's a bit of a wasted opportunity for me. So at number 10, that's Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. At number 9 is Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Now, this movie, I must admit, when I first saw this movie, I did not like it at all. This is when I thought the Friday the 13th series was getting just a little bit beyond a joke. Yes, there is some mad stuff in this franchise. You know, it's quite unbelievable, most of the movies. But this one was just getting a little bit silly. But on a rewatch, when I watched it, I kind of thought it's not that bad. You've got to take all of these with a huge pinch of salt. They're obviously trying to do something different. Obviously, they had this girl who had a psychic connection to Jason, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. But on a rewatch, I did like it a little bit more than I did like the first time. And who knows, on this rewatch, I might even get a number one, although I highly doubt it. So at number 9, that's Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. At number 8 is Friday the 13th. I bet you're going to be sick of me saying this. Is Friday the 13th, the remake. This was released in 2009. I went to the cinema to see this. I don't know if you can see exactly when I went to see this. But I hate it when you used to rip the tickets and used to say, what are you doing that for? Anyway, this is a great movie, I find. I like the fact that it kind of has a nod to the first three because you see bits of the first one and two kind of talked about in this movie. He's got the bag in his head and he gets into being with the mask and everything. I think the size of this bloke, the fellow who plays Jason, who is Derek Mears, I think he's got a great look for this movie. And it's a shame that another one, it gets to a certain point where you think, well, there's a sequel coming up, and then they couldn't, after this, they could not agree on anything. So it just fell flat. Obviously, there's no way they're going to go back to this one and start it off from this. If they do anything else, it's going to have to be a complete reboot, or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. I just want them to do something. Will it be a TV series? That may be a way to go, because if it's anything like Ash vs. the Evil Dead, it would be really spectacular to have that. I just want them to do something else. I just want them to do something with this movie because with this franchise, this movie actually promised, they could do something. They kind of started off again, a good reboot. And I thought they could have really capitalized on this one. Of course, it never went anywhere, did it? Big shame because I do like this movie. I remember when the pictures are seen, it was just so good to see something so gory in the cinema because don't usually get that. It was a good cinematic experience I found. At number 8, that's Friday the 13th, the remake. At number 7 is Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. I thought this movie is brilliant. I loved this from the day I saw it, and I thought this is a great way to go. Yes, it's quite unbelievable how the fact that Jason gets, not really a spoiler alert, Jason kind of gets brought back to life by lightning in a fashion. And I just think it's quite funny as well. It's got some daft bits in it. It's got some great kills in it. To see them all fully uncut would be legendary, but I don't think that will ever happen, sadly, because it's a travesty that they got rid of all the negatives or the cuts or whatever. But anyway, this is a fun movie again. Some of these movies are so like enjoyable. Yes, they don't make so much sense. They've got like different characters. The characters coming from different movies. They've got different personalities, and they kind of change like different actors. But you've just got to kind of take that in the chin and just say it is what it is and enjoy for what it is. If you like this sort of thing, and I just got a blast out of anything that Friday the 13th's done. So at number 7, that's Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. So at number 6 is Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. When this first came out, I couldn't stand this movie. I couldn't believe what they'd done to it. And I'm not going to go into any spoilers. If you haven't, well, in the slight chance you haven't seen this movie, it's obviously got this strange like direction it took in. But this actually is a really fun movie. A lot of fans were really put off by this, including myself. I didn't go to the pictures to see this. Is when it first came out with VHS. Obviously, pictures got ditched for the fact that VHS. You went to the video library and got all these things out. So this was a day one rental for me, and I was so like put out when I watched it to think I think I've been robbed here of a Friday the 13th movie. But on rewatches, every time I watch this, this goes further up in the list. This used to be at the bottom with a bullet, but it's just the characters. I think the characters are so memorable and so fun as well. And I think yes, it is what it is, but I think it's a really good, very different Friday the 13th movie, but really, really enjoyable. And who knows, this one may go up a bit further. I was tempted to put this up a little bit further actually when I did it, but I thought no, I'll go on the side of caution because this might have been a bit of a strange one to put like well, it wouldn't went to number one, but you know what I'm saying. But anyway, so at number six, that's Friday the 13th, part five, A New Beginning. So right about now, some of the more eagle-eyed viewers might notice that I've completely miscounted these movies. I said there's 13, there's actually 12. So all of the ones I did before are kind of one out. Apologize for the fact that all of the video we've been watching thus far has been kind of wrong. So anyway, getting back to the countdown. At number four, definitely number four, is Friday the 13th, the original. This is a great movie, and yes, it is kind of dated, but I like this movie for the fact I know it's not the first ever movie that's like Killer in the Woods and that, but to me, it's the kind of definitive one. It's the one that kind of started off this whole slew of slasher movies in 1980. It was like something, well, it kind of come before, but this one was the one that was like the blueprint for this type of thing. Of course, with a title like that, Friday the 13th, you just can't lose, can you? Now, the casting here is great. Yes, it has got Jason in it. And of course, his timeline doesn't add up with most of the other films, but never mind. Like I say, you've got to suspend disbelief in this one. But I think this movie is a great little movie. Well, it does borrow heavily from the movie A Bay of Blood, directed by Mario Bava in 1971. So it's got a kind of a giallo feel in a fashion. But I think this movie is a great movie. And these movies, some of these have had 4K remasters, and this has got a new 4K scan as well. I know there's a 4K out of this one, but I've heard that the picture quality in it is not that good. And I'm hoping that, well, God knows when that'll happen. I'm hoping that they're going to bring these all out in 4K, which I can't see. And I would hope that they would do a huge new big box set and scan it, which they'll never do. But never mind, one can hope, can't you? So anyway, at number four, definitely, is Friday the 13th, the original. At number three is Friday the 13th, part two. This, and again, this is a great movie. I cannot knock anybody who has this at the top of their list. It's a solid movie. It was so much fun in the cinema to watch this. Great, great movie. It's great to see this with your mates. We're all kids when we got to see this, maybe 14, 15. And we were going, not nuts, as in sort of like, like disrupting the place, just a whole group of us. It's full of kids. We just were going crackers. We just loved the whole spectacle of it all. The deaths, the Jason, everything. Now, the thing that about this movie that hasn't have it a bit low on the list is, especially like a bit like Friday the 13th, you don't see Jason in it. You don't see Jason that much in here with the trademark hockey mask. He's got a bag on his head. And it doesn't affect my enjoyment of this movie, but I would love it if he had the hockey mask on in this one. But of course, this is him sort of like evolving slightly. And yeah, but it's a great movie and one that, who knows, this may go at the top of the list. It's funny because I can see this as some of the rankings I've done, especially with Stanley Kubrick, that changed drastically. Actually, really, I can't wait to show you how that's changed. Now, this may do the same if I'm going in and really paying attention to all these movies. Who knows? So at number three, that's Friday the 13th, part two. So at number two is Friday the 13th, part four, the final chapter. Yeah, right. Actually, we did think this was the end of him because of the way the movie ends, but no, spoiler alert, he comes back, obviously. Now, this movie is such a good movie. Again, when it first came out, I didn't much care for it. It was quite low on my list. If I'd looked at them all first time round, I wouldn't have put this high up. But on reflection, when I've watched it, it does feel like the first four movies, do feel like a sort of character arc. and you could actually just watch them four movies, and you can get like a good sort of like beginning, middle, and end to Jason. I didn't like Corey Feldman in this movie, but since this, I do like Corey Feldman. I thought he was a bit of a pain in the neck when he was always on every film you turned on in the 80s. Corey Feldman's in it, but now I've got used to that. I love him, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim together. I think they're a great partnership. So I'm dying to check this set out for the first time and go through all these discs one by one. So at number two, that's Friday the 13th part four, the final chapter. So at number one, of course, is Friday the 13th part three, 3D. Now, this is the movie that I went to see the pictures twice. This is the best ever experience I've ever had at cinema, seeing this in 3D. The 3D was unbelievable. And when you're a kid and you're seeing all these 3D gags, it's just brilliant to see this. It was probably one of the first 3D movies I've ever seen and actually remembered. There was a big slew of movies going around in 1983 with 3D. Everything that was a third movie was always in 3D. It was quite nuts. The character of Jason gets his mask, which is a big plus for me. And actually, to be honest, when I'm looking at it, the final girl in here was not one of my favorite final girls, if I'm honest. Every time I watch this movie, it's a huge nostalgia trip for me. I'm transported to 1983 when I was sitting in the Whitby Bay Playhouse down there, watching this in 3D twice. It was absolutely brilliant. I would love to do that again. It would be if someone said to me, "What 3D movie would you like to see?" Would it be this all day long? Was such an amazing experience. And it's funny when I'm saying it's not the best Friday the 13th movie. It's just my favorite because of all the things I've got attached to it. But when I go through it this time, you never know. It might drop a few places because I'm going to go through this systematically and do fresh eyes and be not judgmental, but I'm going to really sort of get into these and see, like, on merit, do they deserve to be where they are? So I've enjoyed this re-ranking, even though I got half the numbers wrong. I'm interested to see how these movies play out. Now, I've got quite a few re-rankings to do. I've started David Lynch. I've done me Stanley Kubrick, which was really good and really enjoyed that. Having great fun with David Lynch, of course. Next, it'll be Quentin Tarantino. And then after that, it'll be Friday the 13th. So this will show you that it'll probably not be around the corner anytime soon. You'll see this one. But I'm really interested, as I am with all of these, to see exactly how these sort of change shape when I re-rank them with fresh eyes and mindset. So, thanks for watching. You take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.